So hello to everyone. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for joining Making Faith Moves, where I interview powerhouse women who are doing amazing things, who have overcome obstacles, who have decided that my dream is important, their dreams is important, doing God's will is important. And so today I am chatting with Dr. Michele. I had the privilege of speaking on one of her platforms, and it was amazing. And so I thought it was a beautiful idea to kind of get her on, just kind of share some of her story. So we're going to be having some good conversations today. So we're going to see where it leads to. So let us know, Dr. Michele, who you are and give us a little bit of an introduction.
So thank you first and foremost for allowing me to be here with you. And I am so glad we connected. I am Dr. Michele Wells, and I am a speaker, author, and coach. I am an educator by training. I work in higher education as an assistant or associate professor. I've taught in the area of social work for 20 plus years. And I have had the opportunity to move into this coaching space. I absolutely love it because my heart is to see women get healed, to transform their lives, and to really discover again who they are so that they can move from where they are to wherever they want to be. Whatever it is they're looking to do, that's what I'm here to help them to do.
I absolutely love it. I love it, which is why I thought it was just a great idea to have a conversation with you to see, what is your story? What are some things that you've dealt with that may be able to help somebody else? Because the whole purpose of this show is to help somebody else know that they can, know not to give up, know that, hey, things come up, but what are we going to do about it? So with you helping women in the way that you do, tell me what brought that on. Like, what made you start getting into this field to want to do this?
Yeah, that's an absolutely perfect question because I believe it started, after I got out of high school, actually while I was going through high school, and even my own story, being raised by a father who was an alcoholic, but having a very strong mother who really helped us and did everything she could for her girls. But in that, recognizing, in my later years, of course, that there were just some real hurts and wounds that were actually keeping me stuck. They were keeping me in this place of trying to be perfect, shame, guilt, just that cycle. And I realized as the years have gone by that that cycle really had me showing up with a mask on a lot of times, had me showing up with this false confidence because I was trying to protect myself. And I think that we as women, we often try to protect our hearts. We try to protect against being hurt again, try to protect against trying to just be seen as somebody that's valuable, but we don't even value ourselves. And so those were just things I had to learn along the way. I mean, it's a long story. I could share a lot of different parts of that story, and maybe I will as we speak. But I realized that the way that I showed up, for example, in my first marriage, was I was a wounded person. I was a hurt person. I was a person that didn't know who I was, didn't value myself. And I wanted somebody else to fix me. I wanted somebody else to make it okay for me. And we have to realize that that's the work we have to do. Like I had to do that work so that then I could move forward in what it was God was calling me to do. But in that, you don't treat people right. I didn't treat my first husband right. He saw a lot of my anger and my frustration, and he saw a side of me that I don't like, and she's gone now because I don't like her. She was not nice. She was mean. She was wounded, and she treated people um, through her wounds. The way she treated people, it came from her woundedness. It didn't come from a place of healing. And so that's what I want us to realize as women, that we all have been through something, all of us. And we need to realize that those things that we've been through, God wants us to be healed from because we have an enemy, right? And he's going to keep bringing it up to try to keep us in a place where we're stuck and we're not moving forward. But we have to make a decision that we are no longer going to allow him to steal, kill, and destroy our dreams. And we are going to take action and get to a place where we do what it takes to heal so that we can show up really authentically and like God has called us to show up. So that's my heart, and it's all come out of a lot of my own story as I was growing up and through the years.
Oh my gosh, you said so much that I want to really unpack. My gosh. So let me go back to one of the first things you said, which
Mhm.
was you wanted to show up and be perfect.
Mhm.
How did that affect your work? I know
Mhm.
you mentioned some of the, marriage, and thank you so much for sharing that because it
Mhm.
definitely will show up there. Um, how did that show up in your work? Because, and I'm asking this because I talk to a lot of women who show up perfect, afraid to show their true self. Tell me a little bit about showing up perfect and what that did for you, just in your areas of life.
Yeah. Actually,
Especially
that,
as a Christian, let me add that.
yeah. Right,
Were you a
right.
Christian when this happened?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
let's talk about that a little bit.
So it results that perfectionism really is a separation from
Mm,
God
ooh,
because I wasn't and I did not depend on Him to direct the things that I was doing. So, for example, in my work, I was moving up in my work and doing all the things that were expected of me. But there was so much stress, so much overwhelm that the joy that God wanted me to have in the work, it wasn't there. Because when we are trying to be perfect, nothing that we do is good enough for us. But it's not about being good enough for us. It's about surrendering to
mm,
God so that He can use us in the work. So, as an instructor, as a professor, um, I can see myself many times sitting at my desk, holding my head,
mm.
ready to scream because I wanted things to be perfect.
Right,
And that's not what God was asking of me. He was just like, show up for these people. Allow me to speak through you. Allow me to, help you to help them. And
right.
so it really can be very stressful when you're trying to be perfect all the time. And even in that, I'm reading a book right now about the orphan spirit. And one of the things is that you never feel like you're at rest. You're
Yes,
never rest
yes.
because you're always thinking about what do I need to do? How can I make this better? Oh, that's not right. I got to fix it. And that will drive you absolutely crazy. So
Mm,
for women that are struggling with that, release that, let that go, surrender that to God, and really just allow Him to lead you into what it is He's wanting you to do. And if it's not perfect, it's okay because none
right,
of us are. And we have to
right,
be willing to make mistakes because that's how we learn. We learn
right,
through the mistakes. So
right.
yes, it can be very stressful, and we know, when the stress comes in, that can result in mental, physical, emotional, all of every part of you is affected when you're under a lot of stress. And a lot of that stress, when we're perfectionists, we bring that on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And it's afraid of, being rejected by
Yep,
people or judged. It's just so deep
it's
where that
very.
perfectionism come from. Like it is a whole root that needs to be cut. So that is just so good.
Mhm.
So you're saying surrender is to be okay with making mistakes. Allow God to help you show up in who you are right now, knowing that you're growing. That's what you're saying.
Mhm. Absolutely.
That's
Because if we were already where we needed to be, we wouldn't need him.
yes,
Right?
yes.
But if we always keep ourselves in that place of surrender and allow him to help us to grow through it, it doesn't matter how old we are, we're still growing. And when
Mhm.
we allow him to help us to grow through it, that's when we're able to really step into what he wants us to do and be and have joy in doing it.
Oh, I love that. Surrender is knowing that I can't do it on my own. I don't
Mhm.
need to do it on my own. I just need to be led by God to do it. And
Mhm.
even in mistakes, God still loves me and he
Mhm.
still wants to use me. That is just so, so good. Like, I hope that that has helped somebody just in you sharing that. The fact
Yes.
that we don't have to do it on our own, the fact that we have an answer, we have an advocate, that is
Mhm.
just so good because I dealt with the same thing, operating in perfection, trying to be perfect, making sure that I don't mess up or I'm not judged. And it's like that becomes so draining.
Heavy.
Then it tries to attach itself to your identity,
Mhm.
because you'll never show up as enough because you're always trying to fix something. You're always
Yeah.
trying to, you know what I mean? Like it
Exactly.
becomes such a headache, like, oh my goodness. And now it's okay. We're human.
Mhm.
We're a
Yeah.
spirit, but we have a human experience. And in
That's
our
right.
human experience, we're allowed to mess up. We're
That's right.
allowed to not be perfect. That's so
Absolutely.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So, do you deal with a lot of women who are putting on a mask?
Yes. And the reason I say I call it the mask of false confidence
Mm,
is because we partly because of the perfectionist, we want to show up in a certain way. We
mhm.
want to look like we have it all together. We want
Yeah,
people to like us.
yeah,
We want people to value us, and none of that will really give us peace
right,
um, until we value ourselves, until we show up authentically. Those are the things that give us peace. And so I call it false confidence because we can look really good. Like I wore the mask a lot, a long time.
mhm. Yes,
You
right,
know, and people will give you the accolades and talk about how great a person you are and all of that. And yet inside, you yourself don't even like who you are
right,
because you're not healed, because
right,
you're not healed. And so,
right.
so yeah, I call it the mask of false confidence. And sometimes, Regina, we have worn it so long that that becomes our identity.
Oh,
That false confidence becomes our identity. Mhm.
yes. And it's hard to unravel and
Yes,
really recognize I'm not like this. Why am I
that's
doing
not
that?
me.
That's not me, and it's like you allowed it to become who you are so much till, well,
Yeah.
God, where do I even start?
Mhm.
Where do I start with peeling back the onion?
Mhm.
Where do I
Mhm.
start at? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I was there as well, which, man, I'm so grateful for being able to surrender. And what brought me on this journey is my entrepreneurial journey. And so I want to kind
Mhm.
of lead into that. Is that when you realized when you became an entrepreneur that you had all these things? Because one of the things that I see is I work with a lot of women who are kind of in the balance of, they want to become an entrepreneur. They haven't stepped out yet. They really want to, even if you're at work or not, you want to embark on using your gifts and talents. And when you start sharing entrepreneurship, what you have to offer, because most times your business has something to do with you
Yep.
start seeing some of that stuff. Is that when you saw it, or is it another time
No,
that you saw
I'm laughing because Lord mercy, when I started this entrepreneurial journey,
it?
wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
I just was like, who are you? Like
Yes.
I had to ask myself that question, who are you?
Yes.
All of these, this false confidence, all of these pent up emotions, all of these,
Yes.
this unworthy, all of that started coming out. All of that
Yes.
started coming out. And honestly, as hard as it is to stay the course as an entrepreneur, it is the best thing you can do for your personal growth.
Mm,
Because you have to learn who you are. You have to recognize the value you bring, even when other people might not see it.
right.
You have to stay tenacious and keep pushing, even when you want to
Yes.
give up.
Yes.
You have to learn how to be authentic and
Mhm.
really connect with people on that level because the false confidence won't allow you to do that. So
No.
it's a whole learning experience. And yes, that's when it showed up big for me. It showed up
Yes.
big for me. And so I'm so grateful, as hard as it's been. I'm so grateful because it's like, okay, now after all these years, like, okay, I see who you are. Okay,
Yes.
see you. I see who, who God created you to be. I see how you've kind of put it to the side and you've hidden it under the bushel. And now
Mhm.
God is saying, let it come out.
Yeah.
But let it come out, like you said, in the place of surrender. Don't let
Yeah.
it come out in a place of pride. That's the other
Yeah.
thing.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness. I don't know about you, but the pride, oh my
It
goodness.
is a beast.
It's a beast. And to realize again, because I wore the mask so long, I didn't even know it was there.
Yes.
And then I started down this road and I was
Yes.
like, oh man.
Yes.
So it's really, really been a growth journey for me when I started the coaching business, and um just the humility that you have to consistently
Mm-hmm.
ask God,
Right.
help me remain in that place of humility, help me
Right.
remain in that place of surrender so that you don't go beyond where he's calling for you to be, or go beyond even what he's calling for you to say. Like everything has to be surrendered, your thoughts,
Yes.
your words, your
Yes.
acts, everything. And
Yes.
so you can't do it halfway.
No, you cannot. Oh my
You
gosh.
can't
And
do it halfway.
especially in the coaching industry, maybe all of it. I don't know, because even selling a product, you have to believe in yourself and your product that God has given to you, and be able to
Mhm.
share it boldly and not
Yeah,
make it about yourself. So you still are going to see some of that kind of unveil as an entrepreneur. But speaking of entrepreneurship, let's talk about fear a little bit. Maybe that conversation we just had could have made fear come up, because of course when fear comes up it's already in you. So hopefully when you recognize this fear, if you're listening, you
yeah.
deal with it, right? And rebuke it and send it back where it belongs, which is not within you, right? And so when we talk about entrepreneurship and fear, what are some fears that came up for you when you stepped into this journey?
Fear of not being accepted, fear of not being perfect,
Mm,
and trying to do it just right.
yeah.
Fear that what I had to offer, nobody would want.
Mm,
Nobody would even, approach me for that.
yeah.
Um, just I think just overall fear of really showing who I really was, right?
Yeah.
Instead, and really telling the story of everything that brought me to the place where I am now. So
Yeah.
all of those things show up in this journey, and all of the emotions that go along with that that are kind of wrapped up in fear,
Yes.
like not feeling good enough, being
Yeah.
ashamed of who you are,
Mm,
um, not again feeling worthy that you can have anything to offer, you have anything to say. God, why would you use me? Like
yeah. Yes.
comparison. Oh,
Yes.
that one.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a big one. The comparison,
Yes.
especially when you do a lot of your business on social media. So you're
Mhm.
always seeing what everybody else is doing, what they're saying. You're seeing their success, not realizing, or at least not allowing yourself to realize that what you see on social media is only a
A
picture.
portion.
It's not the real deal. And we don't
Right.
know what people are dealing with behind the scenes, right?
Right.
Just we
Right.
deal with things behind the scenes. But when you get in that place of fear, you're comparing, like, oh, I need to do this. And
Yes.
when you do that, you start chasing different paths, and you
Mhm.
get distracted from
Yes.
where the path you're supposed to be on.
And then you off
So,
course.
and then you're off course. So it's just fear just creates this huge, there's a snowball effect.
Mhm.
If you think about a snowball and you just keep rolling in and rolling in and rolling, it's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why we have to break it. That's why
Yeah.
we have to break it so that we can really, like you said, not get off course, but stay on the path, even when it doesn't seem like it's going in the direction you thought it might go or you'd like to see it go.
Yeah.
If it's God's plan, if it's surrendered to Him, He already has the end, the destiny. He already has us at that end point. But
Right.
we gotta just walk through it.
Walk
Mhm.
through it. I love that. So the person who may be sitting here like, I know God told me to do this, but it's not working. Like, do I quit? How do I know when to change paths? How do I know? Talk to that person real quick for me.
When you're there, because I've been there, done that, it's time to get back in God's face
Mm,
and make sure that you are where He wants you to be. Because if you're where He wants you to be, the Word of God tells us He doesn't give us any more than we're able to bear.
right,
So even when we want to quit, if we're on that path is peace.
right,
Even when it's not looking the way that you want it to look,
right,
that path is there's like a drawing to it, like you can't get away from it. And even when you think about quitting because it's hard, you're still drawn back to it because
right.
that's the path He has for you. So when you're there, and I've been there, you just keep seeking. The Word of God
Mhm.
says, ask, seek, and knock.
Yes, yes,
Ask, seek, and knock. Keep asking, seeking, and knocking.
yeah,
That's the only way, because it's not our plan. It's His
right,
plan, right?
yes.
So are we going to follow the plan that He set out, or are we going to try to go our own way? And usually, if you're in the place of wanting to quit, you're probably right where you need to be.
Probably dealing with that stuff inside you.
You are probably right where you need to be, because
Yes,
you
yes.
got to do the hard things in order to get to the thing that God has. Yeah.
Right, because you think about the scripture, he says that you are more than a conqueror.
Hmm.
Not just a conqueror, but more than a conqueror. Like that means you can conquer plus some, plus some, plus some. Like
Yeah.
we don't just quit any kind of way as a believer. And it goes back to what you said, knowing your true identity.
Yeah.
I think about identity in myself and how when I left my corporate job and how my identity was so tied up in it
Mhm.
until, oh gosh, it just felt like my whole life had fell apart. But in
Mm.
reality, it was falling in place, and I know that there's still work that I have to do, that the Lord wants to do in me. But the leaps and bounds that I've made and the freedom to be who God has called me to be right now today, it's just so freeing. And so, even for the woman who is thinking about quitting or the woman who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, know that there is a journey ahead and
Mhm.
there are some things that we have to unlearn. Even if you are high titled in your workplace, if you are in management level, whatever level you're at, when you decide to step into a purposed life, whether it's on a job or in entrepreneurship, there
Right.
will be things that we have to let go that may hurt us, that may make us feel a certain kind of way. And I just love that you shared that part of yourself. And so I was going to ask you a question about something else that you said. Oh gosh. Oh, just being okay. So you work, right? And you're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit. The balance.
Yeah. It's
How do you show up in that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you asked that, because that was again, it was part of the journey, because when I stepped into the entrepreneurship, I immediately was like, okay, well, this is going to work for me, and I'm going to let this job go. And I honestly didn't show up on my work like I should have. I
Mm.
didn't honor the work that God had given me to do for
Ooh,
whatever season He's given it to for me to do it. And so it was a process to realize that you still have to show up on this job, because for this season you're still called to be there. He
okay,
hasn't released
rewind, rewind. Say it
you.
again
You
for the
still have to
people in the
show.
back.
That's right. You still have to show up. Like
Yeah.
God will help you to show up because he hasn't released you yet. And
Yes.
because you're still there, that means he has something for you to do there. So how can you be a blessing while you're there? And when I did that, there's different um just opportunities that have come to me on my job
Mm,
that are actually related to my coaching. And
right.
so you have to honor that. You have to honor that work that he's called you to do, because in all that we do it as unto the Lord. So
Yes.
it's not about men, it's not about who you don't like, it's not about if you don't feel like it. You're doing it as unto the Lord. And so you set your schedule. Okay, I
Right.
had this is the work I need to do for this job I'm on today. And then I can go over and do the work that I'm doing, as an entrepreneur. And I believe that at some point I will be able, like you said, to have the freedom to fully do
Right.
the entrepreneurship. But right now, honor the work that you have, set the time that you need to do the work and do it well, and then do the work of the entrepreneur journey. And I know that a lot of people say you can't do both. People will say, you got to be able to do this 100%. And I get that. I get that. But I'm not released.
Right.
And
Right.
until I'm released,
Yes.
I just believe God will make up the difference, in what I don't necessarily have the bandwidth or the time to do like I would want to as an
Right.
entrepreneur. So just honor where you are, honor what you're called to do, because the gifts and the talents are there for you
Yes.
to use on the job. They're there for you to use as an entrepreneur. That's what,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I hope that has blessed somebody, because hearing all these messages to just walk away, that may be their story, hearing all these messages that you don't need to work for nobody, and then you just honoring your job when God gave you that job as a vehicle to step into your next. And a lot of times we can allow our feelings to
yeah,
tell us it's time for us to go, versus God saying,
yeah.
no, not right now. And he has you there for a reason. Like, there are people, like you said, that you need to speak to. There are people that
Mhm.
needs your gift right now. And if we
Mhm.
can come from that perspective and not make it about ourselves,
Yeah,
then I think it'll be a lot more
yeah.
easy. Because I think about me leaving my job. It was so emotional. It was an
Mhm.
emotional leap. And I
Mhm.
don't think that that was a good leap,
Mhm.
emotional leap, because we can leave based off of how we feel. This
Yeah.
job is getting on my nerves. The people are getting on my nerves. I can't take this drive to work every day, or this. And
Mhm.
those things are real. Our feelings are real. But at the same time, what is God saying? Are we able to quiet down long enough to know, is God saying leave now? Or is he saying wait? Because there is a reason I have you
Yeah.
there. So that is just so much wisdom in that. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. What would you say to someone that needs encouragement right now? Like, can you encourage them? And then I'll kind of wrap it up. Like, how would you encourage the woman who is dealing with a lot of these inner
Mhm.
struggles,
Mhm.
unbelief, fear, doubt? What encouragement would you give them? I'm frustrated on my job. I'm struggling right now, and I really want to just get out there. Like, can you
Mhm.
speak to her real quick?
Right. I would just say to that person that, first of all, you're not alone. As in this conversation, we've been through it.
Yes.
So there's somebody out there that can walk alongside you to support you, because you are not alone in your feelings. You're not alone in your desire to move forward in your journey. And because you're not alone, first and foremost, God is with you. But secondly, who in your circle can you be vulnerable enough with to say, this is my struggle right now, will you help me pray through this? Will you
Mm,
walk with me through this?
mm,
Because no man is an island, we can't do it by ourselves. You need somebody and somebody's to pour into you, um, their journey, so that you recognize that your journey is not unusual. And because it's not unusual, there's a way forward. There is a way
right.
forward. And um, as I said earlier, you always have to go back to the Father. Always
Yes.
go back to the Father.
Yes.
It's and don't make a move until
Mhm.
you go back to the Father.
Love it.
Don't make a move, and
Yes.
make sure you have peace about that move
Yes.
before you take that leap, whatever that leap is, you know.
I love it.
So yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that is so good. I pray that this blesses somebody. I want to touch on your book real quick. You wrote a book.
Yes, yes. It's called Bold Choices,
Mm,
Transitioning into 2.0. And essentially it's about the journey. It's, because like we're talking about, we want to be at the end. We want to be
yeah.
right there in that dream destination that we've dreamed about, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there is so much growth in the journey. And
Mm,
so Bold Choices has different there's different chapters on fear, on doubt, on understanding the undercurrent, what are those underlying issues that are going on. So that the book is about the journey and what you
yeah.
can learn, how you can grow through it so you can get to where
Mm,
God wants you to be. And I think I've realized, and I'm sure you have too, that we will never actually get to the fullness of the destination until, we go to glory. But
absolutely.
as we're going through, God is growing us. And that's the other thing I want to encourage women with. As God is growing you, as He's building you up, as He's using you on the job, and as an entrepreneur, you are there to help somebody else. This is not about you.
You're right.
This
Yes.
is about holding up your sister,
Right.
helping her come along. So we have to realize that if we give up, then somebody's not going to get what they need, because God sent you to be
Right.
the help that they needed.
Yes. Oh, that's so encouraging. That's so good. Tell us where we can find you. If someone's looking to get your book or to find you
Yeah.
online, tell us where we can
So,
find you at.
yeah, so my book is on Amazon. As I said, it's called Bold Choices, Transitioning into 2.0. Dr. Michele Wells. So you can search either one of those. And then I'm primarily, well, my website is www.drmichelewells.com. My Michelle is one L. So if you put two in there, you're not going to find me. But I am on Facebook also as Michelle Renee Wells, and I'm show up on Facebook a lot, and I show up on LinkedIn
Okay.
as Michele Wells, PhD. So, yep, any
Okay.
place, just find me, message me. I would love to talk with you. Yeah, because I just want to see us as women, and I believe that in this season, God is using women really, really powerfully.
Yes, absolutely.
For his purposes. And so I'm just there to help my sister up.
Oh, I love it. I love you. I love this. You heard me say I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
I mean, I was like, okay, well, hey, I love you. And I do. I love your story. I love even when you invited me to speak, like I love everything that you talk about, like your spirit. It is beautiful. And just online we met. And so there are so many beautiful connections you can make. And thank you so much for saying yes to this interview. I appreciate it. May God continue to show you favor in your business, and I know He's going to continue to bless it, and may He continue to send women to you in droves, and that
Thank
you
you.
have the capacity to handle it. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I appreciate it. Any last words that you'd like to share?
I just appreciate being here, and divine connections. God connected us for a reason, and I'm just very thankful. And so just remember that, ladies, there's divine connections out there. So embrace them.
So many divine connections. I
Yes.
love it. Thank you again. Thank you all for listening in. Please do me a favor and invite someone to Making Faith Moves with Regina T. Green on my podcast or on my YouTube, Regina T. Green on YouTube. And we would absolutely love your feedback. And of course, you know where to find Dr. Michele. And thank you again. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Gotta stop.